Well, hello and welcome back to Covenant Therapy Marriage Ministry. I'm Janine.
I'm Teray.
And this evening, we're going to talk about communication. Communication is huge. It's something we talk about in multiple marriage events that we've held. We talk about it all the time in our coaching sessions. It's a subject that is near and dear to our hearts. And so, I mean, we really feel like, I'll let you speak for yourself here, but I feel like communication is probably one of the most important aspects to marriage. There are a few that stand out a little bit above the others. There's a lot of important aspects to marriage, but there's a few that stand out a little bit higher than the others. And I feel like communication is one of those. Would you agree with that?
I do. And there's, so many different parts to communication. So this is not going to be an all-exhaustive podcast on communication because it's
like an
big.
octopus.
So we'll just add other parts to communication. Yeah, a little bit later on, or a couple weeks or whatever, because it is extremely important, to us.
Huge.
Communication is a foundation.
It is. That is absolutely part of your foundation. I agree.
And so that's why we, everything for us relates back to communication, because it is such a foundation builder, for your relationship. So, yeah. And
really, communication for us was one of the biggest. It was sort of like Bob the Builder in the rebuilding of our relationship.
Yeah.
Being able to communicate what we really felt about things, learning how to communicate effectively in a non-threatening way.
Yeah.
Receiving information. That was huge. And then even, as we got a little bit further along and we had to sort of work through some of the pain and the hurt that we've caused each other, then we had to do this thing we always say, think about what you're thinking about. So the communication was huge for us. So we just want to share about that. And we probably could have like 5 to 10 episodes just on communication alone, because it's huge. It's important.
Oh, I'm going to bunny trail off for just a second. Because I was watching YouTube earlier today.
Okay.
Because I watch YouTube.
You don't. I don't believe it.
And it's funny that we're talking about communication right now. Because right now there's a YouTube challenge, to Tevin Campbell's song, Can We Talk?
Oh, funny.
Yeah, so people are singing, this verse, the chorus, to Can We Talk as a challenge. They're challenging other people to do it, and so I just thought that was funny because Can We Talk and communication, and this challenge is going on and our podcast is going on. I might put my bid in.
Do it.
I'm not doing it right now, though.
We're so close.
That's for us.
We're so close, guys.
I'm more of a Jodeci kind of guy anyway.
He is absolutely a Jodeci kind of guy.
I like Tevin, I like that song, but I'm more of a Jodeci kind of guy. Don't get me started.
Okay, it'll be good if he does get started.
Not yet.
Okay, all right. Okay, so as we said, communication is huge for us. Communication is a pillar. It's part of the foundation. It's just a big part of your relationship. And I can tell you that if you don't have this element right, you'll know. You'll miss each other all the time. Like, you'll say something, the other person will take it different than you meant it, or everything somebody says to you, you'll receive it the wrong way. Even like support and love will sound like nagging, or I'm trying to think of some of the different symptoms that that we experienced, or you'll find yourself snapping over the simplest comment.
Yeah. But one of the things that we discovered about that was because of some inner hurt.
Correct.
There's a deeper
So if your
issue
communication
is off, and one of the things that we can talk about later, in the different part of communication is the filters.
Oh, gosh.
There's filters that we receive information in, and how we take, that information in and sift it through our filter.
Process it.
If your filter is wrong, then, or off, or if it's because of hurt, then it doesn't matter what anybody says, you always receive it negatively. So then you're reacting not necessarily because the way something was communicated to you is because your filter, the way you're processing it and putting it in, because whatever it is that you may be struggling with, dealing with, or have dealt with personally that you haven't been healed from or let go of, and especially in marriages, because we in our marriages, we know what buttons to push when we're trying to make somebody mad, or
Absolutely.
get back, you know what I mean? But those buttons that are pushed, that's poor communication, to be doing that.
Yeah. It's generally retaliatory in some, ways.
And, like we used to be, and like you said earlier, that physically, it wasn't a good thing for you to do to try to come at me physically, but verbally, is where you would get me at, is with the words, and the buttons, and things like that. So from that hurt is something that I had to learn how to heal from because of the words that were said, because then I just received everything through a filter of you trying to get me.
Yep. Yeah.
Or sound like nagging when when you were actually transitioning from that, to it was more of a loving thing. But to me, because my filter was still stuck on
set on nag.
Yeah, set on nag, then everything just came at me. Why are you still nagging me? I said I'm gonna do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so the attitude that I had was a reaction because of the filter that I had.
Right.
So
no, that's true.
Telling you,
because we've been through some
there
things.
was a book that was written many, many years ago, and you'll remember it. Men are from Mars and women are from Venus. Talking about the differences between some of the older books are still some of the best books. I'm not knocking any of the new ones or the new authors or anything of that nature, but some of the older books still have, if you go back and read them now, it's because you see them differently as you've grown as a person. You can learn how to relate to those books more because you've grown as a person.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's a really good, book talking about the differences between men and women, and that's part of our communication malfunction. Is the way we're communicating from a man to a woman and from a woman to a man, and those are the, all right, let me stop because we going.
Well, he said there was going to be another version, another episode of communication, but it's looking like
no. There's still plenty
he's
left.
Giving up all the goods here.
Still plenty left in
This
the bank.
guy. He's giving up all the goods.
But so we can just it's just so communication is extremely impactful to your marriage, and it's something that doesn't get old because you're still together. You're always going to continue to grow together, live experiences. So communication is always going to be something that's going to be there, and it has to be done, man. You can't leave it out.
Well, and it's also something that you sort of have to continue to fine tune over time, because just when you think you got it right, you don't, and you have to keep, tweaking it. But that's okay. Again, we say all this stuff because it's awesome, because marriage doesn't get boring. It only gets boring if you let it get boring. There's always work to do, but the results you get, hard work is awesome when you get like a nice payout. You know what I'm saying? Like you feel good for a job well done. You know what I'm saying? When you can see the fruit of your labor, essentially. And so while there is always something to do, some sort of an opportunity or a challenge, it's good. I would be so bored. It would be so boring if there was like nothing new, no new adventures, nothing new to learn, nothing new to put into practice. It would be so boring.
Yeah. And
I'm glad you give me lots of adventures. Like that.
Right, I do.
Yeah. I think we give each other lots of adventures.
We do. And funny story, that goes along with that is we had to learn that about each other. So when we had the podcast about turning our differences into strengths, if you haven't watched that or listened to it, please go back and make sure you do. Because we talk about being polar opposites in so many aspects and areas of our lives, and you trying to put all this stuff together. But what we ended up learning how to do was to stop looking at the differences as negatives and just pull our strengths together. That's what we really focused on. Pull our strengths together. You're stronger in this area than I am. I'm stronger in this area than you are. So now we can learn how to work together from using our strengths. So that's how our differences became a power tool for us.
Yeah.
Because we just learned how to stop pulling at each other away because we do things differently, but pull the strengths out of each thing that we do and put that together. And now that's how we can function, a whole lot better and a whole lot smoother, than we used to. So something that's also very important. Stop letting me go off on these things, these little bunny trails. But in coaching, personal development, we took a personality test, to get to know. It's stuff that you kind of like already know about each other, but it puts it into words, and you get graphs and charts and get to see, what your results are. And so that helped us to look at each other in a different way too. Like, oh, okay, because I'm super high on the people person, mode, and you were super high, your superpower, my superpower was people, and being friendly and creating friendships, relationships, networking, stuff like that. And your superpower was organization, and being factually correct. You need all the data. You know what I'm saying? And so that's something
telling no lies.
Because that used to bother me because I would say something like, I need to go check that out. I'm like, how come you don't ever trust me with nothing? So early in our relationship, I could be like, that's a watermelon. You'd be like, I need to go make sure that's a watermelon. But that's just how you were.
Let me get a bite of that. Are you sure?
Right. It was just at a lower scale. But as you grew, and matured as a person and your own life experiences, that showed up a whole lot more. But it was
very dominant,
and I had to get that, understanding like, okay, you ain't trying to shut me down. It's just that you're a person that needs to have all of the facts. I'm people person. Like, I don't have to have all the facts. I don't even need to know the whole story to meet you and to have a conversation. We can just
and to retell the story.
Get together and talk about it and have a great time. You know what I mean? But that's just my personality. And once again, that was an area that we had to work on too, is because I was super, friendly and everybody,
very
was
outgoing,
cool. You know what I'm saying? I never met an enemy, almost, what I mean, to that degree.
Never met a stranger, let's say that.
Yeah, that too. But so it's learning how to bringing it back around though. If we never sat down and continued to talk about these things to get to know each other, we could say, well, that's just the way I am and that's just the way you are.
And we could have left it there and been miserable.
Right. And that's exactly what we would have been, is just miserable together, saying, well, that's just the way she is or that's just the way he is. But we can talk about this and work it out, get to the root cause of some of this stuff and pull the layers back, off the onion and get to know each other. And how can we make this work for the better? You know what I mean? And so I'm really, really thankful to God that we were able to do that through all of the hurt and the pain, but also through the good times. Through good times is when you have great times to open that door for conversation.
Absolutely.
You don't wait till stuff gets rough to start having conversations. That's the wrong time to wait.
Right.
To have
it's better late than never, but
but don't wait till you're in the middle of an argument to be like, well, let's talk about this now. You know what I'm saying?
That is the last thing that you should do.
You wanted to talk about it last week. Let's talk about it now. You don't want to do that in the middle of the argument, though.
Right.
That's not progressive communication. That's destructive communication.
Right.
Because that's all bad mood and attitude. You ain't trying to communicate with
bad
nobody
mood and attitude.
with all of that stuff going on. That's a lie. That's just that anger or whatever it is that you letting try to come out and stir up more stuff. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just want to make sure you were done.
I'm good for now.
Oh, are you sure?
We hit some other topic and I just
Clearly that was all on his heart.
Yeah. Let's go.
So it's really important to build your communication skills early. Marriage by itself can be challenging, as we've often said. There's a lot of complexities to marriage, and when you're two people coming from completely different backgrounds, completely different upbringings, in some cases completely different cultures, and there's a lot of different ideas and philosophies. just about life and how to live it. And I mean, things like, how do you handle your finances?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Who's going to be in control of those finances? You know what I'm saying? Home ownership. What kind of house do you want? How do you want to finance that? You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's so many different things. Kids, holiday tradition. I mean, I'm sure the list could just keep going and going and going.
Right.
But because of that, you should start communication early and often.
Yeah,
and it's really important that, when you're dating, that you start communicating. And honest communication, and we've experienced this. I know our children have experienced this. I feel like probably everybody in the world has experienced this to some degree, is when you're dating, you want to put your best foot forward, and so you almost pretend to be somebody that you're not. How often do you say, oh, I love doing this, and the other person's like, oh, I love it too, when they really hate it. And then it comes back later, and you're like, but I thought you loved doing that. Well, I just didn't. I wanted to make you happy. Yeah, but now that I know that wasn't true, I'm not happy.
Right.
And so I think that it's so important to learn early, to be honest. It is okay to have a different opinion. You don't have to agree on everything.
Right.
So I think that that's something that's important early in the relationship. That's how you're going to build a good, solid foundation. If you build it on falsehoods, if you build it on, setting false expectations, we talked about that in one of our episodes. If you base it on lies, I mean, that is a crumbling foundation, and your house won't stand. That's just the reality of that. And so, but communication helps to build that firm foundation, because you're building it on solid truth. And at that point, you can make the decision, is this really a person I want to be with? It's okay if it's not.
Right.
But you don't know that unless you have honest, open dialogue with each other.
Right.
So,
and there are plenty of people out there that actually do that, prior to marriage. They actually have these great conversations. There's people that have grown up together, you know what I mean? So they may not have to deal with some of the issues that we're discussing, cultural differences, financial differences. There still may be a lot of things that you do have in common that you've already discussed. But still, in marriage, you still need to learn how to communicate with each other, because marriage is a different dynamic than just being boyfriend and girlfriend and just dating.
It is different. Even if you live together, it is absolutely different.
And that's why some people will stay in that common law marriage, or just boyfriend and girlfriends, and will not want to actually commit to marriage, because it is a totally different aspect.
It is. There's something about that changes. It's not just a piece of paper. It is a spiritual dynamic, and things shift.
When people do that, and so for all the people who have prepared, the right way, great. That is awesome. You know what I'm saying? But that doesn't mean that you're still not going to have communication issues along the way, because you're still two people that are doing more than likely two different things. You still have two different viewpoints, and you're going to still need to learn how to communicate your ideas together, your views together, whether they're religious, whether it's political, whether it's raising children, whether it's financial, whether it's sports, no matter what it is, you're still more than likely going to have two different views. And one of you may feel a lot stronger about a particular topic than the other one. So if you have a dominant personality, you can't dominate the relationship. Right. You can't dominate. Oh man, I hate this. And people, and I've heard mainly females say it. I need a strong man to put me in. That can handle me and put me in check. Why?
Right.
Why do you need somebody to put
in check?
Exactly. Why you need to have somebody having a strong man? I understand that. You don't want to have somebody that you can run over. We talked about that earlier in our relationship, because she has a dominant personality. But for that to be like, I need somebody to be able to put me in check. No, you really don't. You need to learn self-control.
That's not even scriptural while you're playing.
When you get to a place, and I've seen it happen, for people who have been in that situation, they'd be like, when he's doing what you wanted him to do by putting you in check, your attitude gets bigger, because you still don't want somebody telling you what to do. So then it just depends on how far you're going to go, because he may want to go farther, and then your attitude gets bigger, You know, and so then what happens, and I've seen it where it gets into physical stuff.
And that's
You know,
not cool.
because he's trying to, exude his dominance, while you're trying to still get your point across and not let nobody control you when that's what you said you wanted, and so it
Nobody
just can
really
turn
want
into
that.
a whole mess. So when it gets to that, there needs to be somebody who can not back down, but control the situation. And controlling the situation is by diffusing it, not continuing to escalate and elevate, but, to calm down, to not be reactive, but proactive, still a form of communication,
Yeah.
and de-escalate that situation. So I need somebody just like me. Do you really? What would
don't
it be
need
like in
gas
your
on a fire.
relationship if two of y'all was together? So we're thankful for our differences now than we were before, because like I said before, we've learned how to work them to be more of a benefit, to be more of an asset instead of a liability.
Right.
So now they're working for us instead of working against us. And but self-control, even in communication, don't let that that attitude come up higher than it needs to. Learn how to think about what you're thinking about, and then think about how you need to manage your emotions so that it doesn't cause hurt or harm to the other person that you're trying to communicate with. I'm done.
That was good, babe. That's good content.
Thanks. Thank you for your support.
Always. You got it, babe. Always. So we talked about, here I am. I'm always the one bringing us back on track.
I know.
It's all good. It's good stuff. I just have
Jumped
to
off the bridge.
get us, back on track. So we talked about communication to help build a foundation. Another
And
thing.
this episode is brought to you by water.
And another thing that communication is good for is sort of establishing some of those life goals and aspirations and creating common goals together throughout your relationship. It helps to diffuse misunderstandings instead of escalating, diffusing. So I think that's important. I think that happens with us because we are so different so often that sometimes we misunderstand what the other person means. So just understanding and simple statements of, I'm not challenging what you're saying. I'm trying to understand it better. Or, just little things like that to just clue the other person in that, I ain't trying to start nothing. I just want to understand what you're trying to say.
Right.
So sometimes communication, being able to communicate helps diffuse what could have turned into potentially like an argument or a sore spot. And again, just being honest about who you are and who you hope to be. I think just honesty. So let me just say there's a lot of ways to be honest in your communication. You don't have to be nasty and mean.
Or rude.
Or rude. Honest doesn't mean hurtful. Honest, there are a lot of ways to say something honestly without being hurtful. And so a lot of people think, I'm just being honest. Well, if I was honest like that with you, how would you like that? Nobody likes that, so stop it.
The keep it real people want to
keep it real, get their feelings hurt
with everybody else, but don't want
That's
that
right.
real coming back on them.
Yeah, usually the people that dish it out don't take it so well. That's just been my experience.
Right. They just enjoy getting it off their chest. But just, anyway.
That is not appropriate communication.
That
is. That's absolutely a talk show. And so some of the things that we talk about, communication really helps you to like navigate some challenging waters and you can have those good conversations or those hard conversations through communicating effectively. Again, diffusing situations. So I think that's important. I think creating a safe space is probably one of the biggest things for us. I think that was huge for us, is the ability to create a safe space. And what we mean by a safe space is if I'm going to be honest with you, then you have to let me be honest and not take it personally and not get your feelings hurt behind it and if that happens, you need to wrangle your own self in, because if you react when I'm being honest, I won't be honest again.
Shut down. Right.
So, and that's what happened for a long time between us.
Yeah.
And so we had to really learn, and I feel like God showed me that that, that safe space was so important, because I was the one generally reacting, and God, showed me that I had to let you be honest. If I want your honesty, I had to let you be honest.
Yeah.
And I had to be okay with that. Just because it didn't line up with me,
Right.
my thoughts and my feelings, it didn't make it less valuable. And so that was a big lesson for me personally to learn. I think it has helped both of us.
It's a lesson for both of us to learn.
I do remember that being pretty impactful for myself.
Because communication was so hard back then, because we were like strangers in the same house, a lot of the times, and then, so this is what made the difference for me, is because it seemed like, and well, partially because I was always complaining, so like earlier, or, in previous podcasts, we talk about the filter. Your filter was every time I would come to you and say, babe, I need to talk to you about something. First thing to come out of your mouth is, what did I do wrong now? Because I, set that up because I was always coming to you complaining about something. You didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't do this right, you didn't do that right, blah, 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 and so every time I would come to you, be like, well, what did I do wrong? Or if you could tell something was wrong with me, the first thing you thought is, I did something wrong. Okay, so we're
and instantly
here we go again. I done did something else wrong. And so I didn't create, a lot of times a good safe place, to have those conversations until after I learned, something that that was more dynamic about you, is that first of all, saying something the right way does wonders than saying something the wrong way.
Yes.
And you're a person that operates off of encouragement, more than, pointing out the this and that and nitpicking and finger pointing. So I learned that about you from a conversation that we had. I just listened and paid attention, like, gotcha. So I did a lot less complaining. Another thing about that is because I hated that I was hurting your feelings so much, because I could see it, and it was just because in my transition, and if I'm coming to talk to you about something, it's like you would
whole body language change, everything about me stiffen up, get prepared for impact, brace for impact.
You could see just about every scenario that we already talked about rushing to your brain. What are you about to tell me about now? What did I do wrong? So last week it was this week was that. Oh no, are you about to tell me that you cheated on me? It was, you can see it, body language, communication, body language changed, nonverbal communication, you could see it. And so even when it wasn't any of that bad stuff, it was, the tense was like, okay, I need to change this, because I don't want you to feel threatened every time I come, to say, babe, can I talk to you about something, or we need to have a conversation, so I did not complain so much, but I tried to do a whole lot more encouraging. You did this, oh, babe, that's great. I like that. I appreciate it because it works better for you. So in communication, I need to learn your language.
Yeah.
And you need to learn my language so that I'm telling you, I'm giving you what you need, and you're giving me what I need instead of me giving, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So that was a huge learn for me, is to cut back all of that nitpicking and all of that stuff and turn that negative into a positive.
Yeah.
And then it really began to change to me because I watched it, and it really began to change things in the way that we did communicate, because now even when I say, babe, we need to have a talk, it's a lot less of that tense, because we've come so far from the drama. It's like, baby? Okay, what is it? Can we sit down and talk? Maturity. We've had to learn. Am I jumping the gun?
No, we're still in the same section of different.
So you would have, through what God has showed you, and you taking off wife hat and putting on, friend hat, or a different, and everyone say we can call it a friend hat, that so that you can listen to me.
Yeah, that.
Listen to what I'm saying and not feel it,
Yes.
but being able to listen. And then as you're listening and able to help me from the hurt and what's hurting me and not what's coming at you, and that's how you've been able to help me in a great way.
Well, that was interesting when God showed me how to do that, because it sounds silly, but there is something different when you listen, whether you're wearing a hat, your wife hat,
Right.
or your spouse hat, or your friend hat,
Right.
or your wife ears or your friend ears. Because what a friend will hear, it doesn't hurt them personally. They're invested in their friend and they want to help their friend. If my
Right.
friend comes to me and tells me whatever, I hear it, I'm listening, but it doesn't generally hurt me personally. But as the wife, certain things will hurt me personally.
Right.
So I really had to learn how to sort of jump from one box to a different box. So we always say, taking off the spouse hat and putting on the friend hat.
Yeah.
So that was big. And I do feel like I think that was a God thing that God shared with me personally. And I do think that it helped tremendously in that area. And we've talked about that, I think, in like our story. We've talked about that,
several
where
different,
that was, you had an addiction with pornography.
I call it an addiction.
Okay, so he had
because it wasn't, all right, so I wouldn't call it an addiction.
Okay. Then we won't.
But I did used to, I watched it. I was.
And you struggled to come off of it. A little, come on.
I'm not gonna say not completely. I mean, yeah, I did, but when I think of people that are so people are gonna say, well, you still living in denial.
Yes, the first step is acceptance.
It's taking
babe.
ownership.
That's right. It's acceptance, babe.
No, so I own it.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? But when I look at people that I see that are addicted, you know what I mean?
You think it's like wrecking their lives and things like that?
Yeah, they're hard.
Yeah.
Into it. They're hard into it. You know what I'm saying? So
yours is a lightweight addiction, a casual addiction.
My struggle with it.
Were you a social pornography watcher?
Porner.
Social pornography watcher.
I don't know. Can we say that word on YouTube? I don't know where you want to call it. But was it a part of my life? Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And we helped that helped move you out of that space.
Because first of all, I did need to impressed upon my heart was to come and confess my fault. Mm-hmm. Because it's something that hurts you. Mm-hmm. It hurts me. Children, you know what I'm saying? For what images and thoughts and all of that stuff that you allow into your mind and into your life. So absolutely, to come and confess, my fault, to my wife and say, look, I did this, I was looking at this and and I'm sorry and I apologize. Confess your faults one to another that you may be made whole. And so that's the first step, to being if we're talking about overcoming, any addictions or challenges or whatever, is to own it, in which I did.
You did, babe.
So there.
So proud.
But having that conversation, though, was not an easy conversation for you.
It wasn't for either one of us.
For hurt feelings and, did that make you feel insecure? Well, why are you doing this? Well, what drove you to that? You know what I'm saying? And so that opens up another can of worms, for conversations that we had to have, and it's like we said before, nothing is your problem. It's our problem because we both have to work through things together. We have to work through things together. When you marry somebody, you marry all of them, and in the marriage, if you pick up trash, the whole family picks up trash, and that's just the way it is. And so everybody's got to learn how to deal with it in their own way as long as they deal with it. And that starts with going back to the main topic of communication is being able to talk about it. Mm-hmm. Don't harbor it. Don't hold on to it. Don't push it down, hoping that it'll go away.
Because it ain't going nowhere.
It's going to fester somewhere. It's going to come back at some point.
Yeah, it'll show up. It'll erupt in some other area.
Weeds grow even in the dark. You know what I mean? So, and it'll just be something that's always attached to you until you shed some light on that, and deal with it from the root and get it out, you know. And the way to do that is by talking.
Yep. No, I think that's good. So another trick or tip or tool or technique, whatever word you want to use. You alluded to it earlier. Actually, you didn't allude to it, you stated it. But think about what you're thinking about. That is something that we use all the time. We have used it for ourselves, and we've used it in our coaching sessions. And that is a handy little technique where you analyze why you react a certain way. If you say something to me and I snap at you, why did I just do that? Think about what I'm thinking about. When you said that, I thought about a time when, and it made me angry, and that's why I snapped. Well, clearly that is not relevant today. So that showed me, first of all, that there was a hurt there. Mm-hmm. And guess what we did? We talked about it.
Yeah.
And then, forgiveness and the hurt is gone. But we understood then why I felt like I felt. And so I and then I could, apologize for snapping, because again, snapping wasn't even appropriate. That thing happened like years ago. Mm-hmm. So the snap wasn't even appropriate to today's conversation, not today literally, but today's conversation. And so thinking about what you're thinking about can help you get control over what you say and how you say it. It's a huge help, and pretty much anybody that has put that into practice, that we've told to put into practice, they've seen great success with it. So think about what you're thinking about is a huge technique to help you get yourself under control.
And it's something that you can definitely do, because before that word comes out of your mouth, it comes through your mind 9 times out of 10. Like you're forming that conversation, or you're forming that rebuttal, or that remark, that statement. You're formulating it, in your head, especially during times of arguments or whatever. But, even at the spur of a moment and something happens and you blurt something out, it's like, okay, so where did that come from? That came from somewhere. Where did it come from? So don't just let that roll on and be like, okay, I was just tripping. Okay, so why was you tripping?
Right.
What caused you to trip that way at that moment, at that time? So go back and investigate it so that it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, for the peace of your marriage.
Right.
Peace for you, peace for your spouse, peace for your children. Peace and unity are key.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so those are some of the different things that we use for ourselves, and we use it in our coaching sessions. But if you're looking for ways to have or start or rebuild conversations, I think we mentioned this in our teamwork episode, but we refer to it all the time because it's so helpful. It's basically a conversation starter jar.
Yeah, conversation starter jar.
It's a conversation starter jar that we need to come up with a better name for it. So essentially, the idea here is to write down several conversation starters. So questions, right? So if money wasn't an issue, where would you want a vacation? If you found a lamp and you rubbed it, you got your 3 wishes, what would your 3 wishes be? And having those sort of like out of the way, not mundane conversations, it's a wonderful way to just start communicating. It takes all the pressure off of what to talk about. It takes the pressure off of, what's going on with the kids, what's going on with the dinner, what's going on with the work. It just sort of is like, it's like the fantasy island of conversations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you might find out stuff about the other person that you really didn't know, because while we know each other, there's still some things that if we don't talk about it, then we don't know how we really feel about it until we talk about it, or we just, it'll just stay as a thought. It'll stay as a thought, and we'll never really discuss it or explore it, because we don't create the space or the time to do it.
Yeah, and I think it's important so you can have sort of separate jars. So you can have, sort of like, just like I was just saying, like the vacation thing, where it's just sort of like a general topic jar. But then what's even more fun is you can have your intimacy jar, and you can have a jar where you're writing down things about, intimacy, sex, your sex life. And so what's your favorite position? Why? What's your favorite position and why? Or, if I had to write you like a I don't know what it's called, like a sex coupon.
Sex coupon.
A sex coupon. And, you know, what would you want to have on that coupon? Like, what would be sort of like your dream experience with me? So things like that. Just so exploring, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, just exploring each other in ways that you didn't think to do before.
Right.
It's a wonderful way to have some just different dialogue, different conversations together.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Do you have anything to add to that?
Nope.
Okay. So, it's really fun. We've done the jar thing, just so you know. We've done the jar thing, and it's fun, and it's creative, and it's non-threatening. And I think that's what is so fun about it. Is it's non-threatening and it's not mundane. So we definitely
and definitely gets you out of talking about work and the kids and the job and the this and the that. Or, you know, for us, it's you know, it's the same thing that other people experience. You know, talking about church business, work business, kids business. You know, our business, you know, it can open up your dialogue to things you probably never thought that you would talk about before, you know, and just create some creative conversation. So it's a really good thing to do. It's really put the phone down, you know, while you are together, supposed to be spending time together. Get off Facebook unless you're joining our group. Stay off YouTube unless you're watching us. And stay off Instagram unless you're looking at our Instagram page, you know, and spend time with each other. You know, if your boys call or text you, if your girls call or text you, they can wait. They're grown.
That's the truth.
I'm with my spouse right now. This is our quality time together, you know, and we're going to dedicate and devote this time to just us. And we're going to learn how to learn each other, because every day we grow differently.
Yep.
You know, so we're just going to continue to be on this journey to learn each other, like the other podcast, growing together, and like this one, communicating and learning how to communicate effectively and efficiently, and continuing to know each other better.
Yep. No, absolutely. So, well, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Conversation.
See, it rubbed off on you.
Communication is just really important. We have really come to value that in our own relationship, and we've seen the dynamic shift in other people's relationships when they start putting some of these things into practice. So we hope you enjoyed this episode. We love it. We could talk about communication forever. That's why there'll probably be a couple more episodes.
Yeah.
Around different aspects of communication. I know we've alluded to a lot of different things. So
it's invaluable.
It is. It's huge. I mean, I just don't even know what to say. I can't come up with a better word. It's so important. It's huge. And so hopefully you just got some good nuggets. I feel like there's so much I could say, and I'm trying to like.
This would look like you just didn't know which way to go.
I know. There's so many things I could say, so I'm just trying to not do too much because we're really coming to the end of our episode, and
let's just let it go.
Yeah. So
we'll just let it go.
We'll just let it go.
Yeah.
So you'll just follow us. There'll be more episodes on communication. So if you like what you hear each week,
Yep.
make sure that you subscribe,
like, hit the bell. You know, if you're watching us
alerts.
On YouTube, check us out on your favorite podcast platforms. We're there: Spotify, iHeart, Apple Podcasts, Google, and all those other wonderful places where you listen. But we're just here. You know, we're here. We want to hear your experiences with some of the things. Leave some comments, either on iTunes or definitely YouTube. Leave some comments. You know, and if you're available, you know, if you have a moment, check us out on our Facebook page and our Facebook group, Covenant Therapy Marriage Ministry, and share your experiences with us. Communicate with us. We love to communicate with you.
We love to communicate.
We love to communicate with you.
Yeah, and in the comment section, it would be really awesome if you would share, sort of like pose a conversation starter that you would put in your jar. It would be cool to hear what you guys are. Because we shared one of our, actually we shared two of ours. We had an intimacy and a general jar. So just post. We don't need your intimacy questions.
Not yet, because that's about to be a whole different conversation when we bring that up.
But post sort of just a general conversation starter. It would be great. I mean, out of everybody posting, we could have our own little, everybody could sort of create a jar out of all the different people's comments, their posts. So please share. That would be awesome.
Yep. And so we will see you next week.
That's right. So until next time.
Until next time. God bless you.
Be blessed.